Firstly, I want to join in expressing my sympathies to everyone who's lost loved ones in this crisis, and also as a fellow graduate of 1998 from the Assembly, to pass on my sympathies to the family of John Ballard. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to present massive challenges for our society. As we approach a bank holiday weekend, I know that many people, like myself, will want to celebrate VE Day on Friday. I would simply remind everyone that we must continue to stay at home and adhere to social distancing guidance. People should not be holding street parties or other celebrations that would break social distancing restrictions. We must behave responsibly and not put others at risk by our actions. The message remains the same. Stay at home, only go outside if you have to, and where you do, follow social distancing guidelines, and wash your hands regularly. The health and well-being of the young people in our care and all our staff remains our priority. I again want to thank teachers and non-teaching staff for their tireless work to support not just our vulnerable children and the children of key workers, but the thousands of others who are being educated through remote learning. They have committed themselves to this task with distinction and innovation. Northern Ireland is a safe and well-resourced educational technology infrastructure which our young people benefit from through their schools. But I know that some young people do not have sufficient access to technology. So I have asked the Education Authority to work with schools to identify all of the existing resources that could be modified and lent to pupils, and I plan to supplement that with additional resources in the medium term. In responding to this emergency, we've collaborated closely with other sectors. In terms of school clusters, schools have been accommodating children of key workers and vulnerable children every day. Every day there are around 470 schools open, accommodating over 1,300 children, with this figure rising steadily after Easter. We have 32 clusters of schools pooling their resources. In terms of childcare settings are enabling key workers to work knowing their children are safe and receiving the best possible care. My department has worked closely with the Department of Health to bring forward the recently announced £12 million package on childcare support. This important package of measures will ensure a number of registered and daycare settings, school-age childcare settings and childminders remain open for vulnerable children and the children of key workers, as well as doing what we can to support the sustainability of the wider sector. Application forms will issue tomorrow to childcare providers who are eligible for financial assistance under this scheme. Work to protect vulnerable children in partnership with our health and social care colleagues continues. My officials are working with the Education Authority and Health and Social Care Trusts to ensure that there are processes for maintaining contact with vulnerable children and their families and for accessing these services that they need. Multidisciplinary panels of health and education professionals are considering the needs of vulnerable children attending special schools and other children with complex needs. Over 54,000 families covering 98,350 children are receiving direct payments for free school meals, with over 7.7 million paid to date. The Education Authority and the Department for Communities are working to help the small number of families who do not have bank accounts. Anyone in critical need of food should contact the community's COVID-19 helpline where they can receive support. Alternatively, you can text action to 81025 or email covid19@advice.ni.net. My department is also working with the Department for Communities and the Education Authority Youth Service to deliver the Eat Well, Live Well programme for a further 3,000 vulnerable children. Finally, on the issue of schools, for many parents and carers, the timescale for the reopening of schools is of crucial importance, and there has been much speculation on this. Let me say it clearly that there is no planned date for the reopening of schools for normal business. Any decision of this will be driven by the circumstances, guided by scientific and health advice, and will not be date-driven. Many issues need to be addressed before schools could reopen. We are quite sensibly embarking on planning work to consider and scope these issues, and I'm committed to full engagement with all relevant stakeholders, including schools and school leaders, before any decisions are taken. Whenever schools do return, it's unlikely that this will be on a business as usual basis. There's likely to be a phasing of the return of pupils alongside a continuation of some form of remote learning. And at all times, the well-being and safety of our pupils and staff will be our key priority.